Chapter 2, Saturday and Sunday, July 22nd and 23rd, 1978. All weekend I laid around the house dwelling on Talawanda. I only wished that somehow I could have attracted his attention so that he would at least know I existed. I sat and wondered things like, where does he live? What does he do for fun? Would he even like me? I had one of those depressive feelings like when you're in Vegas and you miss the big jackpot by just one number. Life goes on was my last thought as I settled down to sleep early Sunday night, Monday, July 24th, 1978. Next morning I woke up feeling still numb. As I got ready and headed for work, I kept searching for things in my future that I could look forward to. Christmas was about the best I could come up with, but it was still months away. What am I going to do until then, I wondered. As I headed down Wilshire Boulevard and approached the building where I worked, I strained to radiate the cheerful professional appearance, which is an essential part of my job. "Good morning, Elena. How was your weekend?" my boss inquired, as I stepped into the office. "Wonderful," I responded with a forced smile. "By the way, Elena, you aren't using the company teletype machine for your personal use, are you?" "Why, no, sir. Why do you ask?" I inquired with concern. "Well, a teletype message came in over the wire early this morning for you from someone in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil." "Do you have a copy of that message?" I eagerly inquired. "No, it's still on the teletype machine. I noticed it when I started coming in, but I never finished reading it." My boss headed for his office. Then he stopped, turned around again, and said, "One last thing, Alana. I'm switching the vacation schedules around. It seems like you have to either take your annual vacation this week or wait until next Easter. Let me know what you decide." "Yes, sir," I replied, and I walked eagerly to the teletype machine in the back room. I pulled the paper off the machine and began to read the message. "Dear Alana, I was very impressed with you last Friday evening. Forgive me for not paying attention enough to you, but I was very busy. Permit me to make up for that oversight. You are invited to come and spend a week or so with me in Rio de Janeiro. I'm sure it will very well be the most pleasurable and educational experience you've had this lifetime. You may contact Pan American Airlines, where there will be a ticket, first class, to Rio available and waiting for you this coming Wednesday. I hope you decide in favor of this invitation. The choice is yours. Eternally, Talawanda." I practically fainted. This can't really be happening. I touched the wall to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I immediately ran to my boss's office and asked, "Sir, how soon can I start that vacation?" Casually pulling the pipe from his mouth, he paused, exhaled a puff of smoke, and said, "Well, you could start today if you wanted to. I think we have things pretty well covered here for the time being." It was too good to be true. Everything was happening magically. I hurried home to organize my trip. But as I pulled up outside my apartment, a thought suddenly occurred to me. How did he know who I was? And how did he know where to contact me? I couldn't wait to hear how he pulled off that trick. I could hardly fall asleep that night, I was so excited. I called all my girlfriends to tell them the wonderful news. One of my girlfriends was so excited that she asked me, "Does he have a brother?" I laughed. "Brother? Hell, I don't even know his last name." As I was lying in bed, it occurred to me that I should confirm my tickets with Pan Am to make sure this guy wasn't pulling my leg. I called the airline and spoke to the reservation agent. "Hello, this is Alana Taylor. I'd like to confirm my reservations on your flight to Rio on Wednesday and see if my tickets have been paid for yet." "One moment, please. Yes, Miss Taylor. We show you were confirmed on our flight, and the tickets are available and waiting for you at the airport ticket counter. They've been waiting there since last Thursday." "Last Thursday? Why, that's impossible. Are you sure?" I inquired in disbelief. "There's no question about it, Miss Taylor. Your tickets have been paid for and waiting since Thursday, July 20th. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No, thank you," I responded in shock as I hung up the telephone. Too many weird things were going on. I never saw this man before in my life until last Friday, and even then I was never introduced to him. And now I find out he bought and paid for airline tickets for me in my name one day before I even saw him at the castle. That man had explaining to do. Tuesday, July 25th, 1978. Next morning I woke up in a continued daze of excitement. I raced around town getting odds and ends for my trip. I packed up my visa at the Brazilian consulate and headed home to finish packing. I'd never been to Brazil and very few of my friends had, but I heard it was enchanting and very romantic. As I went over my packing checklist one last time, it suddenly dawned on me that the only way this guy could know my every move was if Walter was in on it somehow. So I worked out a little plan to call his bluff. I called up Walter. "Hello, Walter. Alana here. How you doing?" "Fine, Alana. Hey, I heard incredible news at work about your trip to Brazil. Sounds pretty fantastic." "Well, I'm starting to have second thoughts about it now. I might not go. After all, the guy's a little too mysterious for me." "Well, I can't say I blame you. Just trust your instincts. If you feel you shouldn't go, then don't go. Brazil will be there next year," Walter advised. "Talk to you later, Walter. Bye-bye." That wasn't exactly the response I expected from an accomplice. All I could do now was wait and see if Walter was behind this thing somehow. Just after I got off the telephone, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a lovely bouquet of red roses. I was astonished. The young man said, "Delivery for Miss Donna Taylor." I thanked him and closed the door. I noticed the attached envelope. The envelope note read, "My dear Alana, I am delighted that you have chosen to join me in Brazil. Your judgment is impeccable. A limousine will come to your apartment at 10 o'clock in the morning and take you to the airport. Forever, Talawanda. P.S. I care about you too much to play games with romance. Walter is innocent. Soon you'll understand." Well, I guess that answered my question. I was overwhelmed. Chapter 3. Wednesday, July 26, 1978, Los Angeles. I was all packed and ready to go. At 9:58 a.m., I looked out the window of my apartment and noticed that a beautiful Cadillac limousine was just arriving. I was elated and could hardly wait to begin the adventure. The rest of the morning was spent checking in at the airport and preparing for departure. Before I knew it, the airplane was racing down the runway. Then, with one continuous surge of power, it raised its wings into the wind, and we were airborne. As I looked down over Los Angeles, I could barely believe this was happening to me. Attempting to quiet my excitement, I settled back in my seat and began my 24-hour journey. Thursday, July 27, 1978, Rio de Janeiro. I woke in a nervous condition. A million things were going through my mind, and suddenly my trance was broken by a voice over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are at our final destination approach of Rio de Janeiro Airport. I'll ask you this time to kindly return your tray tables to their full upright and locked positions, and make sure your seat belt is securely fastened. Again, thank you for flying Pan Am." The closer we got to the ground, the more nervous I became. What would I say? How should I act? Then all of a sudden I felt this immensely tranquil presence which completely engulfed me. I was instantly at ease, as if some hypnotist had just snapped his fingers and said, "Relax." The plane glided to the runway for what was probably the smoothest and quietest landing in the history of aviation. The passengers marched off the plane in single file and were processed swiftly through Brazilian customs. As I passed through the doors and final checkpoint of customs, there he was, just as I remembered him on that first spellbinding evening at the Magic Castle. He captured me with those beautiful blue eyes, and he said, "Come, my darling, there are many questions to be answered." He relieved me of some of my heavy luggage and escorted me to his car. It was a custom-designed Brazilian sports car which resembled a Ferrari. We drove exactly from the airport to a lush tropical scene where an electrical tram awaited to take us to the top of a very high mountain. It offered a spectacular view overlooking the entire city of Rio. At the top of the mountain was a charming little cafe and very famous monument known as Christ of Corcovado. It was a gigantic statue of Jesus overlooking Rio with his arms spread wide open. We arrived at the mountaintop cafe and ordered some tasty Brazilian dishes and freshly squeezed orange juice. Why me, Talawanda? I asked. There are many beautiful women between here and California. Why did you choose me? Looking as though he wished to return to some distant past, he paused and explained, I loved you before California even existed. One does not abandon his companion just because the pages of history grow too old to remember. You are important to me. I will not always be here, but before I'm gone for good, you shall know the answer to your own question. I felt an uncontrollable shiver overtake my entire body. I paused uncertain of his meaning, and then I asked the next logical question, just how old are you, Talawanda? He smiled and replied, how old am I, or how old is the body? Which question did you ask? Like you, I've always been around, but I am unlike the humans who are imprisoned on this planet today. You see, I never lost track of who I am. As for this body, well, just how old would you like it to be, my darling? He looked at me playfully and smiled. I smiled along with him and continued my interrogation. Tell me about your business, your hobbies, where you come from. I don't even know your last name. Well, first of all, I'm an educator, a teacher. I have been to and come from so many different and many faraway places that I will have to explain that as a story of its own. My calling card is this body which I call Talawanda. I see no need for a first and last name at this time, so Talawanda is all I go by. I never wish to frighten or overwhelm people, therefore I use the occupation of magician as a safeguard. That way people always have an explanation when they don't understand my messages and tricks. As far as what I do for a hobby, well, what would you do if your own illusions were so vivid and satisfying that you could add anything you wanted simply by creating it? I giggled and said, I wouldn't be working for a living, that's for sure. Talawanda laughed and said, that's right, you wouldn't spend very much time hanging around the office, watching other people work now, would you? Well, it's the same with me and my relationship with the physical universe. I spend very little time here. It is actually dangerous for any powerful being to spend excessive amounts of time here without running the risk of becoming trapped. I frequently have to leave here and return to my own universe. That is the only way I can remain exterior to the game that I do not wish to play. This fascinated me, so I inquired, you said earlier that this universe was merely a dream, an illusion. Well, if this is true, then how can an illusion trap you? Talawanda smiled and said, that's a very good question. Now let me ask you this. How did it trap you and the countless other beings who stepped in here? You came here for fun and enjoyment, and because the universe continued to entertain you like a giant amusement park, you gradually, over trillions of years, dwindled down in power and awareness. Why? Because this universe supplied you with all your pleasure and sensation. You stopped creating for yourself, and consequently you became lazier and weaker from failure to exercise your own powers. Look around you. Countless beings who could once move planets around now need telescopes just to see them. People wonder how an illusion can inflict pain on them. It's because they are under the hypnotic spell of this entire universe, a spell that has convinced them that they have no powers. They were once masters over this universe, and now they are confused, hypnotized slaves, all because they stopped exercising their power of illusion, their imaginations. Instead of doing the intelligent thing and waving their magic wands and garnishing the environment with beauty, they continue to search for beauty and excitement in the physical universe. Like a tractor stuck in mud, they continue to dig themselves deeper and deeper.